So, a pleasant morning to everyone, especially to you, sir. Pleasant morning. So, I am John Mark F. Dulce from BIS IT2. So, today I'm going to discuss my report about communication for various purposes. So, before we indulge in this topic, we must first identify what is communication. So, communication is said to be the process of passing information from one person to another. The purpose of communication is to understand the information. Whatever one wants to say to someone should be clearly understood by him, or else the very purpose of communication would be defeated. So why do we communicate in the first place? So we do communicate for us to attain something. We want to achieve something because we want. So that is the main purpose of communication. So in order to have an efficient and effective communication, you must consider in a lot of technicalities like having a clear voice, proper choice of words or language, and you must be attentive to have an efficient communication. So if we don't oblige these things, or we won't mind these things, your communication will be defeated. So it won't be successful at all. So purposes of communication. There are a lot of purposes of communication. So I'm going to introduce three purposes of communication. So first, we have informative communication. So from the word inform, so it is mainly to inform someone. So examples of these are weather reports on TVs. So it just mainly to inform the audience of the weather. So the second one of the purposes of communication is persuasive communication. So from the word persuade, so it is trying to convince, or it is trying to persuade us to buy, for example, or to do these things because it is effective, somewhat like that. So one of example of persuasive communication are advertisements on different platforms on YouTube and Facebook. So in YouTube there are a lot of advertisements, right? So that is the main focus, to persuade. That is persuasive. So the third one is argumentative. So from the word argument, so you're having a stand of something and you're trying to make believe them. So that is argumentative communication. Okay, so other various purpose of communication is public speaking. So what is public speaking? So a public speaking is a way of making ideas public, sharing them with other people, and influencing other people. So one of example of public speaking is public speeches. So in order to differentiate public speaking from conversation is the differences. So the first one is public speaking is more highly structured. So when you say highly structured, it is well organized, well prepared, of course. It has correct technicalities like grammars, spelling, like that, pronunciation. So other differences, or second difference of conversation and public speaking is public speaking requires more formal language. So in contrast to conversation, conversation is an informal type of communication. Public speaking requires a different method of delivery. So when we're delivering a speech, we have a different kind of method, right? So it depends upon us on how to apply those methods for us to be more entertaining. Because if you are not entertaining when you're doing speeches, then most likely your audience would go back out or won't listen to you at all. Ways of delivering a speech. So when delivering a speech, there are a lot of ways. So the first one is read speech. So from the word read, so you're having a manuscript when doing speech. The second one is memorize speech. So in contrast to the first one, which is the read speech, in memorize speech, you don't have or you don't need manuscript at all, since you memorized or recited already your speech. So it is on your mind already. You don't need any manuscript at all. So the third one is impromptu speech. So the speech is more on like an on-the-spot speech, in which the speaker doesn't have a time or didn't given a time, haven't given a time to prepare his or her speech. So it is an on-the-spot speech. So the fourth one is extemporaneous speech. So in contrast to the third one, which is the impromptu speech, extemporaneous speech is a prepared presentation or prepared speech. So here is the guidelines on writing an effective and efficient speech. So the first one is focus on your topic. The second one is develop your topic. Third one is organize your speech. The fourth one is introduction. The fifth one is body. And the last one is conclusion. So here in conclusion, we're going to say the most important or the overall aspect, overall idea of your speech here in conclusion. So other various purpose of communication is interview. So what is interview? I guess you have idea what is interview. So here, interview is a two-party interaction in which at least one party has a specific serious purpose, and that usually involves the asking and answering questions. So of course, when we're having an interview, there would be two characters. So the first character will be the interviewer, and the second one is the interviewee. So the interviewer will ask the interviewee, and the interviewee is obliged to answer the question. So here in the serious purpose, of course, when we're having an interview, you have a purpose, you have a goal. So you have a specific agenda on doing interview. Either it is to confirm, or or something you want to hire a specific person for that certain position. So it depends upon you on what your agenda or goal on doing interview. So we have one characteristics of interview also. So here is the characteristics of interview. Always involve two parties. So of course, as what I've said, it has two characters rather. It is the interviewer and the interviewee. Always purposeful, as what I've said also last. So doing interview, you have a goal, you have an agenda, you have a purpose on doing interview, because your interview will be useless if you don't have a goal or a purpose. So the third one is focus on asking and answering questions. So when we're doing interview, of course you must do asking. So if you ask your interviewee, then he or she is obliged to answer your question. So it is very important to have clear questions, and also it is very important to the interviewee to have a very attentive attitude. So you must be aware of that. So when you're planning an interview, of course, it is important to define the goal. So what I've said, it is important to set up your goal. It's important to have a specific direction on what your interview will be like, what your purpose on doing that interview. So identify and analyze the other party. Of course, you must analyze your party, or you must have a proper background knowledge about the interviewee for you to have an efficient um, way of interviewing. So it depends upon the interviewee on what kind of interview will be setting up. So for example, you will interview a farmer. So of course your questions will be more on agricultural products, right? Agricultural terms. So the third one is choose the best interview structure. So of course, when you're planning an interview, you must have you must be well prepared when doing uh, having an interview. Okay, sorry. So the fourth one is to consider possible questions. So as what I've said, considering possible questions would depends on what type of person you're going to interview. The fifth one is arrange the setting. So when conducting an interview, you must open it with a greeting or an orientation. It must be one supplementary greeting and orientation. So when you greet, then you orient. It's the second one is perform several tasks during the question and answer phase of the discussion. The third one, close with a satisfactory conclusion. So guidelines for both the interviewer and the interviewee. So here is the tips, of course, tips on in order to have effective interview for the both parties. So the first one is formally inform that you will be conducting or attending an interview. Of course, you must set up a date or exact time on interviewing. Second one is be punctual. So you must arrive maybe mga 30 minutes before the setting or the meeting or the interview, for you to have, especially if you are interviewers, so for you to prepare yourself, prepare your questions, etc. So that is very important. Dress to impress, especially if you were the interviewee. Mostly these interviewee are the employee. So they are the one who wants to be employed. They want to apply to a certain job. So they must do or dress up properly. Always start with strong handshake. So it is very important to have a handshake. Of course, I guess you know what is handshake. Color your words with kindness. Of course, when you're asked, of course you must answer in kind way, like using please, kindly, that. So you must humble yourself when interviewing, especially if you're a interviewee. You must be humble. Don't be boastful. So the sixth one is avoid unnecessary stories. So if you are asked, then answer the question only. So don't utter other words that is unnecessary at all. Just answer the question. Do not lose eye contact during the interview. So you must do eye contact. Don't lose eye contact at all. So you must be, because one of the reason why some people don't doesn't pili sila ma-hire, because they lack on self-esteem. So if you have a lot of self-esteem, then you have a capability to have an eye contact. So the magic word is thank you. Of course, having or ending an interview, you must say the word thank you. So this is the most proper way of ending an interview. So that's all for my topic. I hope you understand what I said. Thank you for watching.